You know, until the Jets gave the old AFL credibility with their win over the Colts in Super Bowl III, the early editions of this game were viewed as competitive anticlimaxes. Most fans thought the established NFL was so clearly superior to the young AFL that, in fact, the Dallas-Green Bay games preceding the first two Super Bowls were viewed by many as the true championship tests. Perhaps that's why, some 20 years after the first Super Bowl game, the losers of that Super Bowl I, the Kansas City Chiefs, rank now as the team that time forgot. Here's Charlie Jones.
The first Super Bowl was not called a Super Bowl at all. It was titled World Championship Game AFL versus NFL. And it was played 20 years ago to less than a capacity crowd here at the Los Angeles Coliseum. One of pro football's finest teams ever, the 1966 Green Bay Packers, represented the ruling class of the NFL, while the nearly anonymous Kansas City Chiefs defended the AFL and underdogs everywhere. During the first half, Kansas City surprised everyone by holding its own. But in the second half, the powerful Packers wore down the Chiefs and rolled over them for a decisive 35-10 victory. In a way, the game seemed to define pro football for the 60s. Green Bay went on to be the team of the decade. Kansas City would have to wait until the 70s for its Super Bowl victory. But to a young sideline photographer, this first Super Bowl had an even greater meaning. Kansas City owner Lamar Hunt had started the American Football League.
That first Super Bowl was unique. It was the only time that a pure AFL team played a pure NFL team. The only game ever played that way, because the next year the common draft started and the members of that first Super Bowl team, they're all doing different things, and for the most part they're making valid contribution to our society.
We were a young football team in 1966. First thing that comes to my mind is Willie Wood. A pass that I wish I had back. It was blitz, which they seldom did in those days. The ball was a little deflector, my arm was hit, and it was a wobbly pass that Willie Wood picked off, and he went back, took it back to about the 5-yard line. And from that point on, the game really turned around in that first Super Bowl game. Had we been able to make adjustments, had we been able to handle the adversity and won it, I think we would have been the team that they would have been talking about rather than the Green Bay Packers. I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, sure, you're saying that now, 20 years later, but I really believed it then, and I believe it now, that we had the talent there. We had the talent that we were capable of beating the Packers. When you talk about a team player, that's Buck. You'd have to get a cannon to get him off the field. He was going to be a player.
I remember as I watched the film during the week and watched the Green Bay team play and watched some of the things that Jim Taylor did when he played some of the other teams in the National Football League, it really, really fired me up. I really was looking forward to playing against him, and I had told my teammates in practice that if Jim would kick me one time or anything like that, then I would knock his head off. I had seen some players who just got enormous after they retired. And I used to tell my teammates, I said, you know one thing, guys, I said, when this thing is over, I'm going to get this way down. The greatest compliment I get now, they said, are you Buck Buchanan? I remember you was a lot bigger than that. You're like a basketball player. Well, that makes me feel great when they sound like a basketball. Can you imagine I look like Dr. J or Larry Bird, this nice, tall, slender-looking guy?
While Buck Buchanan runs for his health, former Chief tight end Fred Urbanus runs for public office. As a legislator in the Jackson County, Missouri Board of Commissioners, Urbanus is known as tough but fair. As a player, he was known as a tough tight end with only one good eye.
I guess a lot of people got to know me around the country because I was the only one-eyed receiver at that time. It's unfortunate. I'd like to have the people say, well, he was a great tight end, and not he was a one-eyed tight end. The Kansas City Chiefs were representing all the underdogs in the United States because we were such an underdog. After the football game was over, I felt that we were beaten by a better football team. We had a couple soft spots on our team. The hammer, I guess that was Fred Williamson. I always call him the tack hammer because I didn't think he hit too hard. Don't have a whole lot to say about him. He was on the football team.
Today, Fred Williamson is still talking a good game and playing a perfect role as an actor and as a film producer in Hollywood.
I always considered football as a form of show business. I was the first guy actually to start wearing white shoes. The nickname that was given to me by my admirous fans was the Hammer. I had said Carroll Dale was not going to catch a pass. I would end his career. And consequently, I became a negative person to my teammates. I'm going to get the Packers up for the game. I said, hey, if that's the way you feel, something is wrong here, because they know we're here. We know that they're over there on the other side of town. They should have taken that aggression that they had against me and used it on the Green Bay Packers. Would have killed them. I had set myself up because I was the Pied Piper. The Green Bay Packers are going to get the hammer. Donnie Anderson came around, and his knee hit me right on the smack right here in the forehead, and I went down. And I was a little woozy over on the sideline. Everybody saying, they got the hammer, right?
The hammer, the hammer. You know who got hurt? The hammer. The hammer. That's a big nail of hammer. Hey, Slap, the hammer got it.
I'm the clown of the football field now because I'm out. They got the hammer. They said, come on, get up. And I refused to get up. I'm embarrassed. They came and they dragged me off the field and dumped me on the sidelines. When they dumped me, I jumped up and I waved at my fans to let them know I was all right. That's the whole story.
Life after football was not easy for Jim Tyre. A series of failed businesses left him depressed and defeated. Early one morning, he shot his wife, then turned the gun on himself.
We all wish we would have known something, but we were very devastated and very surprised because he was this big, strong, proud, redhead German that we never would have thought that he would have done something like that.
He had had success all of his life, All-State, All-American in college, All-Pro. He had some setbacks after he retired that he found it very difficult to cope with.
I still haven't completely recovered from it. It was just like, part of my body had been cut out of me.
Beyond any doubt, no one knew that Jim was approaching that area. I think we all have to answer to say Jim was a piece of our life, and did we let him down? Could anybody have done something? I think it in some way makes us a little closer. That nowadays I think we really appreciate each other a little bit more than we did then. Even though you lose the first Super Bowl, it's still something that we went through together.
A look at some, but by no means all, the stars of that first Kansas City Chief team to go to the Super Bowl. A few years later, Hank Stram's club knew glory of its own. They won Super Bowl IV over the Vikings, 23-7. And the nice part about that, many of the players who were among the losers in Super Bowl I got to sip the champagne on that occasion, including Fred Arbanis, Mike Garrett, Len Dawson, Buck Buchanan, Bobby Bell, and the great defensive back, Johnny Robinson. Now, as we continue, we'll get the thoughts of our game announcers, Dick Enberg and Merlin Olsen. Stay with us. We're coming back right after these messages from your local station.